So now, we're going to answer the question, who taught me to think the way that I do? And this might actually surprise you. But then let me ask a question, because I've noticed something. Have you noticed that two people can live in the same house under the same parents, eat the same food? Why? But think about this. Two people can read the exact same Bible verse. One walks away full of hope, the other walks away full of fear. Same verse, different mind. So this made me ask, where does our thinking come from? What influences our thoughts? I think many of us assume our thoughts belong to us, but I don't think that's entirely true. I think our minds have been educated long before we realized they were learning. Before you ever had your first job, someone taught you what success looked like. Before you ever entered a relationship, someone taught you what love looked like. Before you ever prayed, someone taught you what God was like. Before you ever looked in the mirror, someone taught you what beauty was like. We like to think we independently arrived at our beliefs, but if we're honest, most of them were inherited. So, who has been disciplining your imagination, your definition of success, your understanding of God, your fears, your ambitions? Let me share how I thought about a verse written by Paul one day, where he said, "Do not be conformed," which means someone or something is trying to form you. By some observations, I've been able to come up with some things I feel shaping our thoughts, because nobody thinks in isolation. Something shaping your thoughts. So the question now is, by whom? Like, who shapes my thoughts? So the first teacher I have been able to come up with is family. You know, before you could start thinking critically, someone was already thinking for you. Your parents taught you what love looked like, how to respond to conflict, how to see yourself, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. Proverbs says, train up a child in the way it should go. Like, train up a child. Why? Because children are constantly learning. So that brought me to the conclusion that family, actually, they are the first teachers that's shaping our thoughts, or shaping the way our mind thinks about things. I would say the second teacher is culture. Culture disciples you quietly. It tells you success is money, beauty is appearance, freedom is doing whatever you want, value comes from achievement. You hear it so often that it stops sounding like culture, it starts sounding like common sense. That's why Romans chapter 12 verse 2 says, "Do not be conformed to the world." Paul assumes the world is constantly trying to shape you, to shape the way you think, how the world sees things, the culture of living. It's shaping your thoughts to, what you define as success, what you call beauty, what you value, and all that. Then another teacher is our experiences. Some of your beliefs weren't taught with words. They were taught through pain. Maybe someone betrayed you, now you struggle to trust. Maybe you failed once, and so now you conclude you always fail. Experience is a powerful teacher, but it isn't always a truthful teacher. One painful event shouldn't be the lens through which you now see life. But yes, experience is joined to shaping our thoughts. And another teacher is the enemy. Now, this is where it gets deep. Jesus calls Satan the father of lies. Notice, the devil doesn't primarily destroy through forces. He destroys through lies. Genesis begins with, did God really say? When he was trying to tempt Eve. Not because Satan needed information, no, but because deception always begins with questioning truth. A lie believed has the power to shape an entire life. And then another teacher is Jesus Christ. Because Jesus says, learn from me. Not just learn about me, but learn from me. Christianity isn't simply believing in Jesus. It's allowing Jesus to become the one who teaches the way you think. How to see success, how to see people, how to see suffering, how to see yourself, and how to see God. Maybe that's why a Christian doesn't instantly change their thoughts. Because salvation just, changes your destination. But discipleship changes your mind. and discipleship takes time. So we see now that every day we are being discipled, like our thoughts are being sharpened by your family, by your experiences, by culture, the enemy's life, and even Christ's truth. The question isn't who taught you to think that way. By now, the question is who is teaching you now? Who are you allowing to teach you now? So we're still going to be having another episode of the Battle of the Mind. An interesting one I would want to talk about. See you there.